Part 3. Life After Death. The Dark One. When I first heard the sounds of darkness and silence meeting within me, the little mind argues for light, the virtue, the power, the beauty. Light, a brief happening, could hold me not. All encompassing darkness drew me in. Darkness, the infinite eternity, dwarfs the happened, the happening, and yet to happen. Choosing the eternal darkness, I became the dark one that I am. The divine and the devil are but a small part. The divine I dispense with ease. If you meet the devil, you better seize. The life of a ghost. In a way, everyone is a ghost. Whether you are a ghost with a body or without a body is the only question. What are ghosts? Ghosts are a part of the folklore of every culture in the world. Perhaps no child in the world grows up without hearing a big dose of ghost stories about their lives, deeds, and idiosyncrasies. So, what are these ghosts? How did they come into existence? What is the basis of their existence? Why are they even around? This lack of understanding is because right now you understand only embodiment as life, not because you are opinionated, but simply because that is your experience of life. But life extends beyond the body as well. That is why you have what are generally known as ghosts. It once happened, there was a very shy man. He got admitted to a hospital for a medical checkup. A very pretty nurse attended to him. So she checked his blood pressure, did a blood test, urine test, anemia, and everything. She went out for some time, and in the meantime, before he could get up from the bed, his bowels revolted against all the atrocities committed upon them, and things happened on the bed. He could not control himself. Being a very shy man, he was too embarrassed. He did not want the pretty nurse to see this mess. When he heard the footsteps of the nurse coming in, he just grabbed all the sheets on the bed and threw them from the 5th floor window. Down below, a man was returning home from a party. It is such an unfair world, you know. A man is expected to walk straight on a round planet while the damn thing is spinning. With great difficulty, he was walking sideways, and the sheets fell on him and covered him. He screamed and fought these sheets. It took him a few minutes to get them off. By then, the security came rushing and asked what was all the commotion about. He was dazed, and looking down at the sheets, he said, "It looks like I have beaten the shit out of a ghost." What are ghosts actually? All beings are a combination of time, memory, and energy. Of the three, time is not in your hands, but how you live your life will determine how much memory and energy you gather or dissipate. Let us say, with lots of activity and a certain focus, you use up a lot of memory, the prarabdha karma part of it, very quickly. Now, if you are unable to open the warehouse of sanchita karma, then you may have an untimely death because the energy is still intense, but you have run out of memory. Once you run out of memory, you can either die or become vegetative, but generally you will die because if memory collapses, there are many things which cannot function. However, if your energy runs out and memory is still there, then too you will die, but you will continue to exist as what we call a ghost. A ghost has a manifestation, but because there is not enough energy to keep the physical body integrated and keep it going, the body is gone. But its memory body is still strong enough to be felt by other people. In a way, you can say everyone is a ghost, whether you are a ghost with a body or without a body, whether you are an embodied ghost or disembodied ghost is the only question. And all beings, embodied or disembodied, are playing out their lives only as per their karmic structures. The only difference is that when you are embodied, there is a more possibility of using your will. That is all. What you call ghost are those beings who left their body, usually in an unnatural way. They had a strong prarabdha karma left unfinished, but they died either because of an accident, a disease, a suicide, or murder. Somehow the body broke so much that it could not sustain life anymore. Such beings will have a denser presence and their tendencies are very strong. They are active in a certain way, so you can feel them or even see them more easily. Existence in the form of ghost or the life of ghost, if you want to call it that, is considered undesirable because it can unnecessarily extend for a long time. Let us say this person who has died had some amount of unfinished prarabdha karma when they died. If they were in the physical body, maybe their prarabdha karma would have lasted for another 20 years. Now that there is no physical body, the dissolution of karma is only by tendency, not by conscious action. As a result, the lifespan may last for 200 or 2000 years instead of lasting for 20 years. A ghost generally cannot have conscious intention because the intellect is gone, but they can function by tendency. Let us say when the person was alive, his tendency was pinching people. Even after his body is gone, he will still want to pinch. It does not matter who, he will just want to pinch. Let us say there was someone who giggled all his life. His ghost will also giggle. This action happens by tendency, not by conscious intention. If you happen to see ghost because of your own inhibitions and limitations, you may get really paranoid. Mostly it is your psychological response. It has nothing to do with that being. Suppose you see a person floating and not walking around you. You will go through all kinds of weird emotions. This is not necessary and has nothing to do with these beings. Unfortunately, they get a lot of bad press for all this. The English word ghost is a crude and generic term that bundles all disembodied beings in the same category. But they are very varied in terms of where they came from, what they are capable of, and where they are going. There are some who lost their bodies before they rain down their prarabdha karma and are hanging around. Then there are yogis without bodies who are wandering, always looking for a possibility for their dissolution. Then there are celestial beings who are on a vacation. Some others are of a completely different dimension and have no relevance to your life. Then there are certain forces which people generally refer to as divine forces, which can take in almost any form they wish. So there are actually a variety of things and you cannot bundle them all together. Just to be able to classify these things, to be able to recognize one from the other is a serious amount of work. Traditionally, different levels of bodiless existence are referred to as Bhuta, Preta, Pisachi, Chaudi, Yaksha, Kinara, Gandharva, Deva, and so on. They are at different evolutionary levels, or we can say They are on different types of vacations. Someone is in the first class, someone is in the second class, someone is in another class, while someone else is in a bad condition which you call hell. Essentially, they are all on same type of vacation, but their vacation will end sometime and they will take on another physical body. No one remains a bhuta or a preta or a yaksha or a gandharva or even a deva forever. He or she enjoys or suffers it for a certain time and then takes on a physical form again. For simplicity, we can loosely call those beings who are aware and have refused to take a body and are looking for ways of dissolution as celestial beings. They still have some choice and discretion because they lived and died in a certain sense of awareness. The others are disembodied beings just functioning by compulsion, the same way you are. These are the ones you are most likely to come in contact with. Again, to make it simple, we can just classify them simply as intense, mild, and meek types. Those which are intense have a more active presence and people may feel it. They may even have a form which, at least in other people's experience, is nearly physical. Mild types are not like that, but they could cause certain things to happen to people. If you interact head on with an intense one, spooky things will definitely happen. Their tendencies will be very strong, so they will behave in a certain way. It will be a very strong reaction. Some may be intense and calm, but generally they will be compulsive in some way. If you meet the mild ones, unknowingly people will go through some disturbances, like maybe someone will run a temperature or someone will be disturbed for no reason at all. It is not like a ghost is sitting on your head. That energy could have disturbed your system because they are everywhere in some way. Many of them may not be intense enough to maintain an individual form, but they are there. Meek ones have almost no impact on your system unless you are super susceptible, which some people are. This is the reason why all these kleshanasanas are done, to clear out all such influences. The problem here is to decipher what is just a psychological phenomenon and what is real. It is a serious challenge because every nutcase thinks they saw a ghost or a ghost possessed them. To completely deny it would be stupid. Though these beings are incapable of having intent, they may do something compulsively, and there is a tendency to seek their own genetic memory. They may not feel comfortable somewhere else. They want to seek their own genetic memory. So they may hang around places where these memories are. But are they out to harm you? Not at all. These beings have no tendency to interact with human beings as such. They don't have a discriminatory intellect to choose. I want to interact with this person or that person. That is from your own psychological processes. I think this entire problem is because people have been projecting that these ghosts are waiting and they will pounce on you or harm you in some way. This is all made up by people wanting to profit from them. You can call them commercial ghosts. It is because of all these movies that have been made where the person who died is waiting on a cloud wanting to talk to you or hear what you say. All these things have deeply influenced the human psyche in such a way that they cannot draw a line between what is reality and what is made up in their mind. People's psychological realities are so true for them that they think that is the truth by itself. These things have given much currency to all those ghost stories that you hear. Native Americans maintain a strict code about places where they rest the dead. Once they create a place for the dead where they leave the bodies for the birds or whatever. No one enters that place. One reason is for your own safety. Another reason is you don't want to disturb them. You want them to be comfortable and work their time out. This is also the reason why traditionally the crematoriums and burial grounds are usually outside human habitations. The dead should be given some space. This is a very wise thing to do. Now people ask, are all the disembodied beings human forms, or are there any non-human disembodied beings too? Well, there is no such thing as non-human disembodied beings. For example, does a grasshopper go about hopping without a body? Not really. There are some exceptions to these. Cobras are one. We already saw that cobras and cows are capable of having a subtle body. It is not completely logically correct to say this, but it is like saying that just as with human beings, there are human ghosts, there are also some snake ghosts which can also possess a human being. In Indian culture, it is common knowledge that there is something called a Naga dosha. Naga dosha happens when a disembodied cobra has touched you somehow. Once again, we must understand that a disembodied being has no intention of its own. It is incapable of intentions, but it has tendencies. So when you come in contact with it, it can impact you. When people have Naga dosha, it can particularly affect certain layers of your skin. Usually in such people, the skin breaks into rashes. It looks like psoriasis, but is not actually psoriasis. The skin begins to peel away in scales. It can also create a very strange sense of stillness and movement, where if not handled properly can lead to psychological distress. Otherwise, it can cause people to have serious hearing impediments. I have seen people who have recovered totally from those things by doing Naga Puja and things like that. When a disembodied cobra impacts someone, the period of impact is not very long because its own structural integrity is in question. It will dismantle itself because it does not have the necessary integrity to hold itself for too long. The duration is usually between 27 days to 54 days. This is about it. But Naga dosha, the ailment caused by the impact, can last long. This is if the impact has affected you negatively. It can also impact you positively. If it impacts you positively, you will see that the strength of your spine, how it functions, and your perception will be enhanced. It is because the disembodied cobra lingers about for some time after its death. In India, if people find a dead cobra, they perform a complete funeral for the Naga. Speaking of cobras and their impact, I have experienced both positive and negative ones. Once it killed me, but at once it made my life in so many ways. After the consecration of the Dhyanalinga, my health situation was quite bad. We did many energy processes to recover, and a few people really dedicated their life to making me well again. But certain parts of my body, especially the right side, just next to my navel, were like a vacuum, creating problems. Tumors had started forming there. They used to form one day and disappear after a few days. Doctors said my RBC count was excessively high because my liver function was starting to fail. We could have fixed it, but I needed time, at least a month or two for myself. But because of my schedule, I never got it. So this condition kept getting worse, off and on. We did small patch-up jobs here and there, but we never really paid proper attention to the system. One night in December 2001, I was lying down in my bedroom in the Isha Yoga Center. It was about 4:45 am, and when I opened my eyes, I saw a huge disembodied cobra next to me. It was larger than normal proportion. Its hood was raised. I have always kept a little brass cobra next to my bed. They were the ones who said good morning to me every day. And now there was a big one with a giant hood right there. I was looking at it, and then it came towards me and bit me next to the navel. I closed my eyes. I remained there for some time, and then it left, not to be seen again. The bite caused wounds to my belly, 4 fang marks with blood oozing out. I even showed it to some people. However, from that day, the space of the vacuum was gone. This encounter with the mystical or celestial cobra took it away from me.